Hey guys, it's LL Ryban or Ryban here, and today we're gonna be talking about my guide for the priest. Little disclaimer before I start the video: my priest is only level 45, and I do not have too much experience with them. But I'll be talking based on the few runs I've run on the priest recently, my opinions and thoughts that have formed because of that, and yeah, let's get right into it. We'll be covering skills first, and then probably blessings, drinks, items, and then statues. So that's kind of the order of precedence. Yeah. So let's go left to right. The primary skill, or the primary attack of the priest, is called Smite. It's a little short-ranged AoE attack. I'll show you a little. It's easier to see on the wall. It's got this little circle AoE that it hits, and it's pretty fast attacking attack, which is nice. Um, but yeah, it's a pretty good skill, I think. Not my favorite primary attack, but definitely not one of the worst ones. I think it's pretty good. I don't think there's too much to this, other than the attack damage. Skills from, I'm guessing, 8 to 18. So you can get a little over double it by maxing it. The other thing that increases with rank that's important to know is that you're getting extra impact area. So if it was level 1, it would be a much smaller circle than this. So this is nice for clearing big mobs that are grouped really tightly together, because you got this circle that can hit up to like maybe 10-ish enemies. But yeah, it's pretty nice. Pretty nice skill. Your second skill, which is your first active skill, is Holy Light, which is a continuous beam that deals up to. The keyword is up to, because this build, this skill has a charge time. If you just start it, it's a small beam, and then it caps out and becomes a bigger beam. If you're actively hitting something, your passive orbs will also hit with that beam. So you've got 4 beams coming out. If you target an ally, you can heal them for, it looks like, what is that, 1/6 of the damage? Is that the same throughout? No. That is a little above 1/5, I think. So as you level it up, the mana cost does increase up to 8. That is not pay 8 once and then you're done. It's you're constantly spending mana on this skill while you're using it. That's where the 8 comes from. Um, so it's kind of an expensive skill, and if you keep it at level 1, it only costs 3. So you're essentially tripling the cost if you max it. If you're playing a skill build, this does tons of damage. And one of the unique things that you should know about this skill is you can use your primary attack while using this skill. You're very slow while using your primary, however, so if you want to be mobile while using it, you're not going to want to use your primary while using it. Your second active skill is... Oh, sorry, I forgot to cover it. It does base healing plus a percentage of their max health. That percentage doesn't scale, so it's not too important when choosing what to do with this skill, but that's how that works. Your active skill, your second one, is Consecrated Ground, which is a really nice skill, but a really risky skill. So you place down this little circle, and everything in it takes damage periodically and heals whoever's in the circle for that damage whenever they take damage. That's pretty much all it does. If you increase the rank, you get extra duration. They take more damage, and the percentage of the damage dealt that is returned is the same. I don't believe you can have multiple of these out. Yeah, so you can only have one of these out. But the cooldown's really short, so as long as you have mana, you can pretty much consistently get these out. And the last skill is the Aura of Purification, which actually I have no experience using. Where you activate an aura around you that slows and lowers the resistances of nearby enemies by 20%. All allies in the area take less damage, up to 30% less damage, which is I mean, if you know in Heroes of Hammerwatch, 30% less damage is disgustingly huge. I mean, this is a really big ability. For party play, this would be really good. I'm going to use the skill real quick and then get back to you guys because I need to learn if you can use skills during it and all that stuff. Okay, that was actually a really short break. Yeah, this is literally what it says. It's an aura. You activate it once and it just comes out. You can attack, you can use skills while doing it. Any of your skills are applicable. So that means this is huge. You should just pop this whenever you can. It's essentially just a buff. Just a buff at all times. I think going forward with the priest, I will be using this a lot more than I currently have. I thought it was something where you couldn't attack anymore, so I thought this was only good for party play. But no, this is a very powerful solo play ability. I don't have any experience with it yet again, but just by looking at it, 30% damage reduction is huge, and lowering resistance by 40% is also huge. Now we'll get to the passives. You've got Divine Protection. This is like a mana shield. If you've played any other game with a mana shield, this is literally a mana shield. When you max it out, it's significantly better than when you start out with it. I will say how mana shields work in most games, and this game as well, is it's worth maxing it, especially because in this game, very low point cost to get it to max. But also because the shield absorbs 30% at a cost of 4 mana per. 4 mana per. So that means if you take 100 damage, it'll take 30 of that for you. But only if you have, what is that, 1,200 mana? Is that right? No. I'm stupid. Sorry, 120 mana. Right? 130, 10, yeah, 120. Sorry, my brain is not working. So if you take 100 damage a few times, you're out of mana. What happens is the percentage goes up, but the cost goes down. So immediately from level 1 to 2, that 100 damage, you'd be taking 35 less damage now. And it only cost you 70 mana. And then you'd be taking 40 less damage and only costs you 40 damage or 40 mana. And then that's just going to go down and down and down until you take 50 less damage. You take half damage permanently, and it only costs you half of the damage in mana. So 100 damage costs you, sorry, not half the damage, a quarter. So if you take 100 damage, you're going to lose 25 mana to take away 50. That's disgusting. Combine Divine Protection with Aura of Purification, and Cleric is easily one of the beefiest tanks in the game. You could also pop down Consecrated Ground, Aura of Purification. You'd have this maxed. You'd be taking less damage, healing for damage, healing from your primary or skill or whatever build you're going, and you'd be taking less damage from this too. I mean, that's huge. So, I mean, let's just put in numbers again. If you have this maxed out, 100 damage hits you, you take 30% less damage, so you're getting hit for 70. Then this reduces that by half, and so you'll be getting hit for 35 damage from the original 100. If that isn't powerful to you, I don't know what it is. That is really strong. Sorry, I went on a tangent. Next is Remedy. This one's good. I feel like it. I'm not speaking from experience on this again, but this is something that I'm expecting. I feel like this loses some of its significance later on in the game, but also maybe not. When you max this out, it does 200% more healing from all sources, which basically means if you were going to heal for, I don't know, 50 HP from your primary attack, you'd heal for 150 instead. If you're going to heal from 50 from an apple, you'd heal 150 instead. If you used your beam and you were constantly healing for 8, you'd heal for 24 instead. Basically, this just makes all healing more effective. The one downside of this is once you have enough healing or you're doing enough damage, which I'm assuming, this is an assumption I'm making, late into the game, you probably don't need this anymore because your healing is going to be so strong, it'll just take you to max anyways. Um, I'm totally wrong on that being anytime soon, so this is nothing to worry about for you guys. But in the far, far, far future, if you play Priest for a very long time, up to like NG, probably, I would bet it would happen post NG 60. This would become less and less useful. But yeah, all in all, this is a great skill. Works on, I'm assuming, health regeneration, healing from apples, healing from life leech, healing from any of that stuff. All more effective. That's huge. Yet again, works on consecrated ground too. So I mean, all in all, priest is very tanky. Lastly, you've got your celestial orbs. These are those little orbs I was talking about earlier. They'll mirror your ray of light. But the other thing they'll do is if you're near a enemy target and they're in range, they'll attack them just by default. They don't do a whole ton of damage, but they do damage. The only difference, as far as I can tell, if you're using your holy light, they target the same target, but that just gives them extra range. If you can see here, they have to be very close to hit this target. But if I'm far enough away using this, they can all actively hit that target even though it's that far away. That's pretty much the biggest difference. They're hitting for around the same damage, if not the same damage. So upgrading your holy light is not going to increase the damage that these guys do with the holy light. It doesn't replicate it, it just attacks the same target as it. That being said, I'm not sure if these heal like holy light does if you target an ally. I wish I could speak on that from experience, but I'm guessing they don't, but they very well could. If you do know the answer to that, please leave a comment down below because I would love to have that information out there for you guys that are like me and don't know. That being said, let's talk about which skills I would max first on this character. Eventually, Priest, I believe, will transition into a skill build, but I think they very well could be a primary build as well. I think they're kind of the perfect hybrid class that can go either way. And they don't really have a preference to either. A lot of characters have a preference to one or the other. But I think Priest, because the Holy Light does a fair amount of damage, I think the Priest could be either skill or primary based. I do think in later NGs, the skill cost may be a problem for Holy Light because it only costs 8 mana. Wilmer will not scale this as hard. So a lot of your Wilmer damage will be coming from Consecrated Ground. So with that in mind, I'll talk about what I'll max first and why. And the first thing that I'll cover actually is why. When you're starting on a Priest, and you're starting on any character really, I would recommend going primary build. There's several reasons for this. Skill builds I feel like are good. But the one issue they have is that a lot of times your mana costs are too high for your character, or your mana regen can't keep up, or something like that. By all means, if you have a high level sorcerer, like a really high level sorcerer, and you're comfortable with going skill build right off the bat, you can. But in general, I would recommend going primary build. My reasoning for this is I think every single character in the game, pretty much, if not every single character in the game, can get to NG probably around 6-ish, fairly easily running a primary build. That being said, that doesn't mean skill builds are bad by any means in the early game. It's just that, you know, they're harder to pull off properly, I feel like, when you're first starting out on a character. So I'll be talking about the primary build. I'll give a rough estimation of what I would take if I was doing a skill build and why. I may not be exactly correct on that. Yet again, another disclaimer. I have not played skill build Priest before. I've only done primary build and it has worked great for me so far, so that is what I'm speaking of from experience. The first thing I do, as always, on a primary build, you're always going to max your primary first. It's top prio. And I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. The reasoning for that is you're going to do more damage. If you have the money for your travel blessings, you're going to heal for more. And just in general, if you have a high level primary attack, realistically, if you play it well enough and get the right items, you can probably get through the base game with just your primary attack. No passives, no anything else. Not saying to do that, but this is for sure the most important thing to get up first. Doing more damage means you're going to kill things faster, take less damage, heal for more if you have Symbol of Essence, stuff like that. I would definitely prioritize this skill first. The second skill I'd prioritize is Divine Protection. I would definitely get this up. Mana Shields, yet again, to me, this is self-explanatory. You're taking less damage for free, essentially, because you're playing primary build. You don't really need mana. Your first time through the game, I don't know if I would take these because immediately, if you're able to comfortably spend the mana to use these abilities, I would get them. This ability in particular, if you get stuck in a crowd of enemies, this may keep you alive. This one would also help with that. If you can pop both, they'll help you tremendously. But the mana costs are pretty high. If you're running something like Overflowing Physique, you're gonna have a hard time casting these if you don't have a high level sorcerer. For that reason, as you can see, I only have 1 point in each of them, and this character is on NG7, I think. I've beaten NG6. You really don't need these at high level for that. I'm not saying you can't take them. In fact, in the future, I probably will take these. I have these extra points, so that's where I'll probably put them into. But I would try to get 1 point in each of them because they are situational, and that's only a 12-star enhance or 12-star commitment. But these are gonna fall by the wayside for me personally. I would definitely, as I said, I would max this second. I would put points into this, but in general, I would say take this first. An extra 12 magic damage is nice, especially when it's times 3 and your base attack only does 18. This will help you get through the first stage. I think the optimal build with the least amount of skill points invested to beat the base game is Smite maxed, this maxed, and this maxed. In that order, probably in that order if you're playing safe. If you're taking more damage, I think Divine Protection is more important than Celestial Orbs. But other than that, after that, I would take Remedy because extra healing, why not? And then these abilities, I would say this is almost useless single player if you're playing primary. So I wouldn't tech into this at all, but it's definitely there. If you can handle the mana, why not? As I said, you can cast this while using your primary, so there's literally no negative. So for the 3 active skills, priority-wise, I'd say probably Aura of Purification. First of all, its mana cost only goes up to 70, whereas this one goes up to 90. So you're taking 30% less damage. You don't have to stand still inside of a circle for this to take advantage of it. I mean, just in general, this is the most important one on a primary build. This is probably the second most important, and this is the least important. So in order again, TLDR, primary, mana shield, final passive, middle passive, final ability, middle ability, and then first ability is the way that I would max these. If you're playing a skill build, my speculation is kind of the same, but you don't need primary at all. I would still get it up. Yet again, kind of similar to how I feel about Holy Light. You can use it anyways, so why not? But I would get up Holy Light as far as you can to comfortably be able to continuously cast it. I would get these up to wherever you're comfortable having enough mana to cast these. But in order of precedence, I would do this first, then the Mana Shield. Mana Shield is huge. The reason being, in a skill build, it's super important to max this out. Not because of the extra damage reduction, but because it's taking less mana per damage absorbed. If you remember what I said, if you take 100 damage here, it's going to cost you 120 mana. Whereas if you take 100 damage here, it's going to cost you 25 mana. that difference is astounding. It's literally like 1/5 of the mana lost. So you want this for the survivability, but because you're playing a skill build, you need the mana. And for that specific reason, you have to max this. This may even be higher priority than any of your skills. Afterwards, um, I'd probably do this, and then yeah, I'd max. If you're going skill build, probably consecrated ground first, and then aura of purification. And primary would be last, but it's definitely not a bad thing to put points into. Yet again, that skill build order precedence may not be right, but that's what I would do. And again, the TLDR, max this. Wherever you're comfortable with it, max this, max this, max this, max this, max this. And yet again, with all of these 3 abilities, you're going to do whatever you're comfortable with in terms of mana costs. And then Smite last for the skill build. Next, we'll talk about blessings. Blessings are important, as always. And I have my guy set up for a primary build. I'll show you both configurations. But for the primary build, you're going to take Path of the Defender. Blessing of Mind is what I would always take on the Priest. My reasoning here is you're basically just increasing how well your mana shield can work. I think your primary does hybrid damage, so you could go Blessing of Intellect here. If you have a really high sorcerer, you really don't need this Blessing of Mind. But I like to take it for the sustainability of my mana shield. Just in general, I'd recommend starting Blessing of Mind, and when you're really comfortable, you can transition off to Blessing of Intellect. Then you're gonna take Symbol of sorry. You're gonna take Symbol of Essence, and after Symbol of Essence, you're gonna take Divine Strike. The reason being, you have a super fast attack, so this can take the best advantage of that. That's pretty much my explanation for that. For a skill build, I would go Path of Defender. I would debatably go Blessing of Mind, Blessing of Intellect, same thing. Transition to Blessing of Intellect after you're done with Blessing of Mind and you think you can live without it. I would go Symbol of Focus, though, for the extra crit damage on your skills, because you're not going to need the Symbol of Essence. And then I'd probably still go Divine Strike for the skill build. So the main difference would be you take Symbol of Focus instead of Symbol of Essence. Next, we'll cover drinks. I'll go over a few things, I guess. I'll go over 3 drink builds. The first one that I'll show you right here is the primary combo build, which is Incendiary Demise, Frenetic, Wicked Sickness, Overflowing Physique, and Crazy Eye. As I always say, or maybe I don't always say this, but I would argue, Groovy Ghost and Mellow Mist are also good pickups instead of Crazy Eye. But I would warn you, minus 0.4 movement speed is going to suck. The other build I would take is the primary Moonshine build, which is Incendiary Demise, Markham's Moonshine, Overflowing Physique, and then you take 2 of these drinks or any other combination of drinks that you like. Lastly, I'll talk about combo skill build. There is a Markham's Moonshine skill build, but they're all... Well, I'll tell you what you could take. There's a few combinations. I'll give you a guess as to what you could take. But on skill build, you don't need Incendiary Demise anymore. You're going to take Evil Infusion for Vamp on your skills. Markham's Moonshine. Or this is the non-combo build, by the way. Evil Infusion, Markham's Moonshine, Elemental Bruiser, and Starlight Singer for crit chance. You can take Double Thriller here. You could take... Oh, geez. I don't know. You could take Harry Magus. You could take a few things here. I'm not super knowledgeable on skill builds, so I'm not really sure, but it's really up to you. I like Harry Magus. I like Double Thriller. You could also just take something like Groovy Ghost, yet again, or On the Run or something for extra movement speed. Really, there's a lot of, I think, customizability with Markham's Moonshine builds because you cut out a drink by not going combo build. If you're going combo build, you go Frenetic, Evil, Wicked, Elemental, and Starlight for maximum damage. Um, items. Yet again, we'll go over primary and then skill. In both of these builds, if you're going the crit or the combo build, you're gonna go Lucky Hat. If you're going primary, you're gonna go Heartseeker. If you're going skill, you're gonna go Staff of Volatile Casting. If you're running Markham's Moonshine, you can run a lot of items here. Because Markham's Moonshine gives you the flexibility of not having to rely on combo. You don't really need Lucky Hat. Do I still recommend Lucky Hat? Yes, but I would say the other option of the two would be more important. Heartseeker or Staff of Volatile Casting. It also opens up a lot of doors for you. If you wanted to, on primary, you could take something like Judgment or Earth Splitter or something like that. Yet again, I'm not super familiar with Markham's builds either, but I genuinely prefer Heartseeker and Lucky Hat because a lot of the things in this game are based on percent chances, and so luck helps out a ton on that. So I would recommend the crit item for either skill or primary with a Lucky Hat for both builds. Other items don't really matter too much. But yeah, that's it for items. And last but not least, we'll go over statues. Statues, I'm going to say, are pretty similar to other classes, but maybe a little different. If you're running primary, you're always going to go Callus. You can go Kira here, or you can go, when you're starting out, Bolgarth's a really strong choice. So is Kira. But yeah, I don't know. I would recommend Callus, Kira, and Bolgarth at the start. I would swap out Bolgarth for Ozreth. I like to keep in Kira. I feel like Kira adds a lot of stuff just in general. I'm a Kira fanatic, but you can make arguments for other stuff here, such as Wilmer, or you could just grab a Cedric and become tankier and get the mana regen for your mana shield. But yeah, I would run Callus and Ozreth for sure in the late game. I'd run Callus, Bolgarth, and Kira in the early game. But in the later game, you can swap out Kira for something like, as I said, Cedric, I feel like would be a really good one. Yeah, that's what I do for primary. If I was doing a skill build, instead of Callus, you're going to run Cedric, you're going to run Wilmer, and you're going to run Ozreth. And that's pretty much set in stone. Although in early game, you could run... Oh, geez, I don't know. You don't want to run Ozreth necessarily early game. He's not as good. You could probably run Bolgarth or something like that. But yet again, if you don't have combo, you can't really run Bolgarth. So, important note there. Yeah, that's what I do for statues. I'm sorry if everything was kind of vague on this one, but what I've been doing as far as my knowledge and the information I provided to you has been working for me. I think I could very easily clear up to NG8. Maybe I could definitely clear up to NG10. Not easily per se, but I definitely could do it with certainty. I could do it currently. But that's all I know about Priest, and that's what I would recommend doing with the Priest. Yet again, I've been playing primary. I think, geez, I don't remember if I've been doing combo primary builds or Markham's primary builds, but I think I've been doing... I want to say I've been doing Markham's because I wanted to try them out, and it's been working pretty well for me. But you can check out my Priest run videos if you're curious about that stuff. But yeah. That's all I know about the Priest and what I would recommend to run on the Priest. And I hope you guys found this information helpful. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.